So in the question of recycling or reuse materials from building when they are demolished, is an interesting challenge to overcome for a more sustainable future, and an important one. So to do this, any governmental body or organization who has this as a goal, it's important to think about at least two very important aspects. One of those two aspects is, of course, law regulation. Since the building code is very specific, it's important to look into how the code can be changed in a way that makes it easier for a contractor to choose reused or recycled materials. But the other major challenge is to get a great overview over all the potential building products that has a future for recycled or reused material. But when you reuse, let's say a window, which is 10, 20, 30, 40 years old, then it's of course not living up to today's code. It doesn't hold the correct standard to be put directly into a new building. So then it's important to figure out, so what can these windows be used for otherwise? And that is both a creative but also a rational process, where you have to figure out that, okay, so windows, for example, in this case, can be used to make a glass building where you grow plants or you have some greenery area, but you don't use heating there, for example. So that's a potential reuse of the product windows in a place where the code might fit. And you have to do this with basically all building materials, and that will become a very large matrix. And you can't do this without looking at both of these two processes in the same time, because the code also has to match up to the potential solutions for these different products. So I'm seeing this as a matrix where you have to define the down scaling of a building product. So first it starts as a window, then it becomes as a part of a larger window structure for a totally different type of building than normal housing, for example. And after that, maybe you find a different reuse of that again, or maybe you have to take the window apart and shred the windows and use it as either insulation material or as a filling under the roads. And then the wood will have to find another place to be used. If it's wooden window, or if it's plastic window, or metal framed window, they will have to go to their different normal sources for recycling. And this could be a very long stair going down into the shredder, but you would like to use the material as long as possible with as small changes as possible as well. So when we look at materials like bricks or concrete, it's possible to think in the design process that maybe you can make concrete structures that can be reused, but they're often heavy and would have to be taken down and shredded. Bricks, on the other hand, is more easy. They can be taken down, they can be cleaned, and they can be reused. This is also a process that demands a lot of manpower or industrial solutions with machines to clean the bricks. But it's time consuming, and these challenges needs to be handled. When that is said, a reused building material needs proper documentation. So you also need to look into how do you make sure that every building product that's sent back into the marketplace and on the construction site, that it has the right document that certifies the structural hold, that is certified how it will be used further and what it can and cannot do. And to do this, I believe the law regulation needs to be looked at. So these processes might be not necessarily simplified than they are today, but they have to be adjusted so they fit this type of product. And I think this is very important, that we're looking at the downscaling in the use of an existing building material instead of just throwing them straight into the shredder. But of course, the shredder is a great place if you have control over the flow of materials into it. And we also see that 3D printing might be a place where different building products, recycled products, are going into the shredder and are coming out in a new industrial process as 3D printed building parts, or even on the construction site. So this is basically the main two steps on how to tackle the recycling and the reuse of building materials for a sustainable future. And they have to go hand in hand in a parallel process to solve this, because you cannot do the one task of gathering all the information about potential outcome for building materials without looking at the law process, and vice versa. So it's a little bit like a chicken and an egg challenge here to overcome, and I think the best thing is to tackle them both at once, but that demands a lot of computational power and a lot of people involved. So it's a big task for every country or every governmental body who's interested to do this.